Folks, welcome back to the show. Uh it's high tension month. Basically what it means it's midterm election. There's a lot of stuff going on locally, nationally. Everybody's on, lots of emotions, lots of things going on, right? So we all seen it on TV, we all seen it on newspapers and all that stuff. But for me, most important thing is local elections. Local elections has more impact on everyday lives than they do on national level, like senators or congressmen and women. So for us in Loudoun County, it has been super high tension. And as you guys are aware, I've been, talking to many of the members of the of Loudoun County, trying to see, who's going to be the best fit. I've been going to the forums. I've been listening to their debates, and right now, the school board thing it's the big one for us for Loudoun County because we were ground zero when COVID started with all the pronoun stuff, everything like that. We started this national movement, I should say. So we started this whole thing, and along the line, we made some friends, we made some enemies. We also met some people who had common ground with us. We didn't care about the political affiliation. So sit tight. I have a special guest, and I'm excited to bring him on. Let's get into this, guys. Let's bring in our guests. Michael, welcome back to the show, my friend.
I lost my audio.
You lost it. Can you hear me? Let's see. We're having some technical difficulties. So as soon as Michael gets his volume back or audio back,
I don't have any audio.
you don't have any audio. All right, give me 1 sec. Let me see if we could fix this. Let me bring him back. This is what happens when we have a live show. Technical difficulties. We tested it before we come on, but it was working. So, anything, Michael? Can you hear me? I'm gonna have him log off and log back in, and hopefully that will fix the problem. Log off and log back in. Here we go. So, let's see if Michael can get back with his mic. So until that fixes things, let me also text him since sign out and back in. Hopefully he gets the message. All right, he's gonna sign out and sign back in. So hopefully, we could get that going. So, but the the race is real, guys. Like local election, as I have been saying, local election is the most important election that impacts you daily on daily basis when it comes out to schools, local taxes, local policies, you know nationally, yeah, it does impact a lot of things, but locally, in your neighborhood, in your county, is more you are more affected when you try to have somebody in, because you feel like because of your political affiliation you have to vote for that person, and you don't care what kind of policy they have. You know what I mean? That's the only problem. um that's the only issue that we have here. Well, that's not the only issue, but majority of the issue that comes from there. So we see from, like, the big cities where they pass these, like, terrible liberal policies that affects everybody. High gas prices, you know uh crime, high cost of living, like many things. And people are just stressed out. People don't want to live in those neighborhoods. They complain. And what happens is they just become used to it, and they're like, "Oh, this is it. I guess I can't move anywhere. I can't afford to move anywhere. Um, I can't uh, do anything with my life because this is all I know. This is all I have. So that's it. I'm stuck with it, and they get used to it, and they keep continue voting for the same thing. You know, maybe it'll cross your mind. Let me try something else. Maybe something else or somebody else will make this better. I don't know. I don't know. It's it's weird to me how people are so uh are so dedicated to a single party where they don't want to give something else a chance. I am not party affiliated. I don't align myself with any party uh or try to say I'm a Republican. I'm not a Republican, I'm not a Democrat. I'm an independent. I am a conservative. I have conservative ideology. Um but I like I like to hear both sides. And hold on one second, guys. Try back in. He's having some technical difficulties. We'll try to figure this out as we go along. But you know, not nobody has to agree with my views. Nobody has to agree with what I say. Nobody has to agree with me at all. You know, and just because you don't agree, I don't doesn't mean that I don't like you or I don't want to talk to you. Maybe you don't like me, you don't want to talk to me. That's a different story. But I do have neighbors who who are on the other side of the aisle. uh One second, guys. I'm talking to Michael, trying to get this technical issues resolved. Let me get this resolved and I'll be right back, guys. Okay, I'll be right back.
There you
Can you
go.
hear me?
I can hear you now.
All right, good, good. We got audio back, guys. Good. The era of technology. All right, so I'm gonna reintroduce my friend Michael Rivera, running for the Leesburg school board spot. So, Michael, thank you for coming in on the show. You know, technical difficulties happens all the time when we're doing a live show. You know, it's part of the game. um,
Well, I worked in IT for 15 years, so I trust it, but I don't bet my life on it. So it happens to the best of us. So.
yeah, it happens. I mean, it is what it is. But so it is the final countdown, my friend. We are. I've been watching you closely. Your I've been watching your opponents. I've actually reached out to your opponents, trying to bring them on the show. They never responded. So you were the only one that actually responded to come on the show, actually talk about the issues that everybody's been talking about. So um, you've been running on this platform for a while. Most of Leesburg and Loudoun County know who you are because of your background, your career and all that stuff. But uh, I want you to tell me that what got you into this race to begin with, and what is the number one issue that you are going to be working on once elected and put in the position?
So you're aware, and we met probably about 2 years ago through the school board meetings and talking at school board meetings. And I think the same things that got you active attracted my attention with the critical race theory and the aid policy 8040 with the pronouns and things like that. So
Yeah,
I don't want to get in too much of the weeds with those things, but to your question, the thing that really gets me the most, and I think you'll agree, is um, parental rights.
yeah,
For some reason, and I don't know when it was that this changed, the school systems and the government think that they know better about raising our children than we do. And the thing that is insulting is that we have to feed our kids, we have to provide medical, we have to make sure that they stay out of trouble. We get in trouble if they are truant. They're not allowed to drink alcohol. They're not allowed to go to strip clubs. They're not allowed to read pornography from bookstores. There's a lot of things that, as parents, we are responsible for maintaining the health and well-being and safety of our children, aside from the love that we have for them. And then all of a sudden, it seems like overnight, a government institution thinks that they know better than we do about our children. And so people talk about the hill to die on and things like that, and some people get upset when you use that analogy. But if anybody got, and I think you share the sentiment, if anybody got in between me and my son or my daughter, it would not end well, and it would probably be very confrontational. And I think that crosses party lines. That's not a partisan issue in terms of, if I'm a Democrat, I don't care for my children, or if I'm a Republican, I care more for my children. We
yeah.
all love our children, and what's going on with the school system is a travesty. And I think that the important thing that I want to do is, I want to make sure we take our public school system back, so that we don't do our children a disservice.
Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, most of us, what we want transparency. We want to see the person that we have put in that seat to be transparent with with the people who actually put them there, to inform of what's going on behind closed doors, because a lot of these things happen behind closed doors, and it came out while it was at their final stages. So not a lot of people had any information of what the hell they're planning to do, what their thought process is. How many times have they voted on this, or how many times have they discussed the issue to come to a conclusion that, yeah, this is a good idea, or no, this is a bad idea. I don't remember any of those school board members asking the constituents about what they thought about these policies coming along, or, like, I don't remember any of those stuff.
Yeah, that's a very good point about transparency. So I would advocate that right now we get to look at curriculum and lesson plans and things through Parent View, right? So, but you need
Okay.
a log on in order to get into Parent View, which we're all afforded a log on as moms and dads. I would want to go one step further. It's public school. The
Hmm.
public school curriculum should be fully transparent to everyone. So I
Correct.
should be able to log on, or I should be able to go to the LCPS or the San Diego Public School or the Minnesota Public School website. And if I want to look at the K through 12 curriculum, I can see it all in black and white, easy to access all of the materials, including access to electronic curriculum, etc. Right now, it's like they say, well, it's available to you, but it's not. The key there is easy access, right? Easy and accessible.
Right.
And right now, it's accessible, but I don't necessarily feel that it's easy. It should be very straightforward. Where you go to the website, you pick a grade, and even maybe pick a teacher if
Hmm.
there's a particular teacher that's teaching that subject, and then drill down what's going on, because these lesson plans have to exist. The curriculum has to exist in order for people to go forward. And what you and I are seeing is a lack of transparency. And again, it's this notion that the school knows better for our children than we do. And
Hmm.
the stuff that really gets me is the sneakiness, right? They say they're not teaching critical race theory. So let me go down that route, because everyone says, oh my God, it's a dog whistle, it's a right wing conspiracy.
Yeah.
Well, I talked to a parent the other day and said her child was watching Morning Joe, right? A news show in the morning, which clearly has certain political leanings, right?
Hmm.
So if you show Morning Joe and CNN and MSNBC and these shows, they all have a certain view, and you're not showing the full spectrum. And I would argue that you're not even showing news anymore, it's commentary.
Sure.
And that's the way the social justice, the diversity, equity, and inclusion, and the race theory gets into the head of these children. They may not say CRT on the chalkboard or on the whiteboard, but the way that they're teaching and the things that they're implying is this, it's the same thing. They just wrap it in a put it in a different wrapper.
Yeah, I mean, you don't have to say CRT. I mean, that word has been used so many times that they at this point they don't even want to use it anymore because it has such a negative implication. So they're gonna change it to something else. They're gonna change it to probably like uh, uh, inclusivity or racial justice or whatever the hell these people come up with. They just change words just to justify something they want to justify. Um, my biggest concern is books. As you know, some of the books that made it into the libraries were very sexually explicit in its content, um, and you know parents were not part of the approval process. To be honest with you, and I don't know if all the parents should be uh, involved in approving what books come in and what books leave.
So,
You know what I
um,
mean? Like I would I'd like to have some sort of a voting system set up for parents to express their opinion about books being recommended for curriculums, um, and take a vote on it, see what parents feel about it, as a county, not as a state.
yeah, and so
Yeah.
so that's something that I've looked into a lot. And in 2019 there was an influx of books under the moniker of the diverse books collection, right?
Hmm.
And that came in under the leadership of Michelle Picard, who currently works for LCPS now.
Hmm.
And I know this because I exchanged some emails with her to ask questions about all of these books. Coincidentally, the books that we are challenging come out of that diverse books collection. Turns out that there were no parents involved in the selection process for that entire collection. It also turns out that a lot of the purchasing and the approval process was done essentially under the wire, if you would, uh, so that it doesn't get as much scrutiny from a signature and approval perspective. So while we are currently fighting to remove books, the bigger issue is that the books should have never gotten there in the first place, right? Because we really need to figure that out. Now, in terms of review, I think that parents from the specific grades should be involved. So if you have a second grader or a third grader, you should be involved in that capacity, right? Because you're concerned about the material that your child is seeing. I don't think it would work that you could just get a general group of parents to review everything. And my fear would be also that the school board picks those parents, and those parents are essentially
Partisan.
proxies for the school board to kind of do what they want you to do. It's not a very easy process, but it has to be done. And the reason we have to go that route is because we're in a situation now where we're fighting to get these things removed. And when I talk about books, right? First of all, we're not banning books, right? Because these books are still available elsewhere. You can go to the public library, you can go to Amazon, you can go to a bookstore, right? Banning books to me would mean we take them out and they are eliminated from all of society. That's not true. What we're saying is there's sexually explicit material in some of these books that has no academic merit in the public school system to be funded by public tax dollars. So the same way that you and I cannot take our 10-year-old to a strip bar or a pornography movie because they're rated R or X by law, there's they should not be in the public school. And what we're seeing is the material in some of these books, in particular, there's a title that I
Yeah,
carry
rated
with,
X.
yeah, in particular, there's a title I carry. The name of the book is This Book is Gay, right?
Yeah.
The title, who cares about the title? It's what's in the book, right? There is a chapter that has a how-to with detailed instructions for and pardon my French, anal sex, right? I can't talk about this without being very candid. And so what I tell people is your daughter, who is 13 years old, would you want her to read this book in school, right? And if if not, would you want a 13-year-old boy reading this while looking at your 13-year-old daughter, right? And so there has to be some moral absolutes here about what we can and cannot have. And let me be clear, it goes the same for heterosexual sex or gay sex. It doesn't belong in the school system. The same way I wouldn't want a drag queen reading a book, I wouldn't want a stripper reading a book either, a heterosexual pole stripper. And people don't get that. They change the narrative. They try and blow all these dog whistles about you're a book banner, you're doing this, you're doing that. And in the end, you and I are just trying to be parents protecting our children.
Mhm. When I went to high school in California, when we took our sex ed class, I was in 11th grade when they gave us sex ed, which 11th grade kind of makes sense because we're sort of out of our teenage years going into, adulthood, turning 18. We're like 16 years old, 15, 16 years old. And it wasn't as explicit as it is now for elementary school.
Well, right now
Do you get what I'm saying?
it's explicit also in the sense of sexual gratification. It's not
Sure.
even just telling you about the reproductive functions of the human body, it's telling you about sexual gratification. And I think the schools are not the morality police. They're not the people that are going to teach your children to be moral or conservative or atheist or Christian or Muslim, whatever. That's not their job.
Well, good thing you said that because when you said morality police, because I'm sure you heard of what's going on in Iran, all the protests and all that stuff. It was because Iran has a morality police. It's an actual unit in Iran
Mm.
where they go out and hunt down people who do not oblige the standard attire for women.
I just heard that on the radio today.
Right? So it's been going on for weeks now. A girl was actually killed by morality police because she did not have the proper headscarf on,
The
or like
the
her,
the hijab.
yeah, the hijab. She didn't have the hijab on properly, which was, you know, almost the entire population in Iran doesn't really have their hijab on properly.
Hmm.
I believe it was targeted, but Iran does have a morality police, and they are brutal. They are not nice people. They are brutal. So it's funny you mentioned that here they're doing the same thing.
You're right.
They're trying to become a morality police, and if you don't say the right thing, or if you don't do the right, you don't wear, or I shouldn't say wear. If you don't think the right thing, or you don't say the right thing, you are gonna get punished.
See, this is the thing, and again, I got to be clear about this too. What you do in your home is not my business, right?
Correct.
Because this is America, and if you want to be lesbian, gay, bisexual, transsexual, um, that's your life, right? And
Correct.
you have the right to do that as an American. And I have my opinion, and you have your opinion, right? But what we're seeing is that not only do I have to be, accepting, or allow, say that everyone is free to do whatever they want. I have to affirm it, and I have to live by it. which
Right.
which if you look at it from a religious perspective, which, as an analogy, let's say you have a Christian and a Muslim, right? And a conservative Muslim, where the girls and the women do not talk to other men. And I'm going to use a more extreme. They're not allowed to talk to other men. The husband represents the family, always covered, with the headscarf, never exposed in any manner to other males, right?
Correct.
And your daughter, who's a Muslim, goes to school, and she has to be in a locker room, and there's a boy undressing because he's allowed to play volleyball with your daughter, and undress in her space, right?
Hmm.
Well, I wouldn't want, the same way I wouldn't want to impose my Christian values on anyone, and that family won't doesn't want to impose their Muslim values on everyone. They just want to be respected. This person that believes that they're a boy or a girl or the opposite sex, they've flipped the script and made it so that you have to abide by their rules.
Sure.
So we have 0.1% of the population in Loudoun County Public Schools. On the website, it says it, identify as non-binary, right? So for 0.1% of the population,
The
we took
entire
away
population has to
we took
oblige.
away yes, we took away staff bathrooms and turned them into non-gender bathrooms. We took away other bathrooms that, the maintenance folks may have been using, and we flipped the entire paradigm upside down for a very small percentage of the population. And
Hmm.
don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that we didn't need to accommodate them, but what we did is we violated the rights of 99% of the population for 0.1% of the population.
Yeah, but Mike, here's what angle people don't never look at it, right? They come in with the excuse of, oh, these people are being bullied. If they go to the boys' bathroom, they're gonna get bullied by the boys. If they go to the girls' bathroom, the girls, complain, and they're saying the girls are being bullies towards the person. So everyone's a bully, I guess, at this point.
Well,
So
see, that's
there's no common ground at this point
yeah. Well,
because
see, that's where, you know the story, or the narrative is that the transgender population, one, is a very large number of people. So that's one part of the narrative, which I have yet to see that data, right?
it's not big.
The other part of the narrative is that, um, transgender people are being excessively targeted, abused, bullied, and singled out, which I'm not seeing that data in the public school system either. And there again, like you said, there seems to be no common ground here in that. How do we address this? So um in life, when you make a decision, there there are consequences, right? So
Absolutely.
if you choose to live your life a certain way, there are consequences. I'm a law enforcement officer, and I chose this profession, and with it are consequences. There are people that don't like me. There are people that want to hurt me. There are people that want to hurt my family. Not They're not justified necessarily in doing that, right? But that's a consequence of my choice, right? But I don't tell everybody to adhere to my lifestyle, right?
Correct.
I don't force other people to respect me artificially.
Correct.
I accept the respect that I get, and I take the punches and the lumps with it. When you choose to identify as another sex for whatever reason, whether it's a mental disability, a mental illness like gender dysphoria, or a fetish, or however you want to do it, there are consequences to that action. And the consequences could be that society is not comfortable with what you're doing. Not everyone in society, but some people may be uncomfortable with it. The
But
same way that some people are uncomfortable with police, or some people are uncomfortable with firefighters or doctors or nurses or whoever, right?
but yeah, Mike. But realistically, it's human nature. Okay, and I give you an example where you have somebody who's a bodybuilder, right? They're like, this guy's fit. This guy looks good. He takes care of himself. Then you see a guy who's 350 pounds. He's a slob. He doesn't take care of himself. He just loves eating. The judgment is always there, regardless. Then you see a guy who wears their pants behind their butt, and they're like, that's classless. And you see a guy who wears a suit, that's classy, right? So the judgment's always there. Whether it's for men, whether it's for women, it doesn't matter. Because at this point, what they're doing is they're trying to make a justification, you know, where they say, oh, body positivity, being overweight is now okay. You know, not eating fast food daily and gaining 200 pounds is okay. And I'm not saying I'm a fit guy. I'm not fit. I'm definitely I'm overweight. I am aware of it, right? But I don't, like, sure, I eat a lot, of course, but I don't push it on somebody else. I don't say, hey, the way I do it is the best way to do it. Because body positivity, man, nobody can tell you you're fat because they have to accept you, and they can't say anything about it. They can't even think about, telling you that in their head that you're overweight.
Well, that's a good example because I like to eat too, right? And but I realize that there are consequences to my eating, right?
Your
And I would
choice. It's your choice.
Yeah, and I would never tell other people that are thin and fit, say you need to eat more in order to affirm my being overweight or my eating a lot, because
Right.
but that's where we're at. So I have a lifestyle choice, and my lifestyle choice has to be everybody else has to get in line with my lifestyle choice. Wouldn't be any different than if I'm a runner and
Right.
now I'm forcing everybody to run because
I like to
because
run.
that's the way it is.
Right. And I think that's where the issue is now, is making these issues th- that everybody needs to affirm to it, everybody needs to follow it, everybody needs to do it. You know what I mean? And it's getting away from reality, because now, before on historically, this was an adult thing, right? Transgenders were mostly seen in during adulthood, people in their 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, whatever. And what happened was, I don't know, to be honest with you, I don't know what happened all of a sudden. I don't know how it all of a sudden just made it into the school system. I don't know how all of a sudden it just made it into the children, into the youth, and kids under 10. Where you have psychologists and psychiatrists and whatever moron these people are saying, oh, a 4-year-old can determine if they're a boy or a girl.
Well, so
You know what I'm saying?
let's um let's switch gears here for a minute because we can spend hours
I
talking about this
agree.
because I agree that I don't understand how it happened either, right? So I think that importantly, we're talking about what used to be an adult conversation, and it's made its way into K through 12.
Hmm.
So we are introducing adult concepts to children.
Sure.
We're we're introducing concepts of sexuality to young kids, and the narrative is that, well, your boy wants to be a girl, right? And we're going to affirm him and call him Susan instead of Sam, etc. But what people don't realize is how that comes about, right? So you send your boy to school. They're with the teacher 6 to 8 hours a day, 5 days a week, 4 or 5 days a week,
Hmm.
and they come to school. And maybe your child isn't very popular, has acne, maybe he's a little chubby, maybe he's a little skinny, maybe has big ears, and they don't feel like they're making friends. And then the teacher comes along and says, "Well, Dimas, what do you think? Do you feel like a girl sometimes? Are you confused? Because if you did, we can be your friend." Right. And so they do this. So now they start that. 6 months later,
The
your boy
indoctrination.
comes home and says to you, "Papa, I feel like a girl." And now you're fighting an uphill battle to reverse what they did in school, but they tell you that the child made that decision on their own. And to me, that is a categorical lie, right?
It
Because
is.
the power of suggestion led the child down that road. So if we switch gears a little bit, there are a lot of things happening in the school system that parents should be afraid of. One is the family life education, which is sex ed, being pushed down into the lower grades.
Hmm.
So, kindergarten, first grade, second grade, whether it be picture books or whatever. The other is this whole school, whole child initiative where they want to have clinics and doctors and mental health and all sorts of things available for your child. Again, they make it look nice on paper, but basically they want to get into your child's head and further separate them from you, your wife, and your family. And there's also a departure from academics and meritocracy. So
Sure.
now in Fairfax County, they just passed some revised grading criteria that basically, kids could just get promoted through the grades just for showing up. So you don't get tested. Your grades don't really matter. You can do retests over and over and over again. And at the end of the day, as parents, we suffer and the children suffer because they graduate high school, they can't read, they can't write, and they can't hold a job. The only thing they can maybe do is work at a McDonald's or a Burger King pushing buttons on a register only because they know the pictures, not because they understand what's going on.
Right.
And then we now have people in society that are dependent on the government, right?
Yeah.
That's the end goal, is to have as many people as possible be factory workers, line workers, mindless workers in society that are fully dependent on the government versus critical thinkers that are always looking for a new idea.
Yeah. I mean, so like right now, my kids don't really have homework. They're in like fourth and fifth grade. They don't have homework to do. They have study guides. Um, and they're gonna be going, sixth grade, and next year they're gonna be in sixth grade. And my only issue is at this point is the lack of work they're doing with these kids. The content that's being taught is not challenging. And what they're doing is they're trying to equalize everybody into one pool. There are going to be children who are more advanced than the others. That's just how human brains are. That's why you have scientists, you have engineers, you have this, you have that. A lot of people fail along the way because they can't handle the stress, they can't handle the material, or they can't retain it. But if you start off early not to teach these kids how to retain information that's going to be critical in their life, simple mathematics, not a mile long way of doing a multiplication or a division.
Well, see,
You get what I'm saying?
you hit the nail on the head because life is not fair. I hate to
Of course
break it
not.
to people. Life is not fair. Everybody is not a winner, right? And we have this current mode of operating where everybody gets a participation trophy. If you just show up and breathe, everybody pats you on the back and says, "Hey, Dimas, you're a great guy. I'm glad you showed up to work. You don't really need to do anything. And if you
Yeah,
need a timeout because you need some space, we're going to let you go into the room to a safe space." And in the same manner that I am not a chemist, right? I accept that. There are people that are smarter than me in chemistry that will be chemists. I'm not a chemist, right? And never should somebody allow me to be a chemist just because my skin color, right? Or just because my race, because I'm Hispanic and because I'm considered an oppressed class or a person of color. uh,
yeah,
that would be a terrible thing to do because I'm not a chemist, right? And so
sure.
I'm going to warn you that my son is in the 8th grade. He doesn't get homework either. And so they're continuing this pattern of no homework, no challenges. And I remember when I went to school, I had homework and you had to hand it in and it got graded and it was part of your grade. And if you didn't do your homework, you could fail a class. And even in college, I had homework. I had take home labs that I needed to do. And
Mhm.
so here we are at an early age preparing kids to not do work at home, not take initiative, not own what they need to learn. And it's a disservice. And a lot of this people say, I got chastised the other day because um, I said that they asked me about collective bargaining with teachers unions.
Mhm.
And I said, I believe that the teachers should have a representative as a group of people to get economies of scale because they deserve a living wage. They deserve good working environments, disciplined children, and
Sure.
things like that, right? What I did say very clearly was I don't think that that organization should be a union, right? There are
Mhm.
nonprofit organizations that represent teachers that can do that for them. But
Sure.
the union is highly political. It's motivated by dollars, politics, and power.
I
And
agree.
the teachers unions today are working for the teachers, not for the students. And we need to keep the focus on the students because
Mhm.
that's what public education is supposed to be. And right now, nobody is focusing on the children.
Right. I mean, look, everything is ran like a business. If you look at it, however you like to look at it, manufacturing, the focus is on the product, not the worker. So it goes without saying, like, a worker at a manufacturing company, they're in a union. The union is going to say, hey, they need to get paid X dollars an hour per X dollars per hour, you know, and they're like, okay, so if they want to do this, they need to put out this much material. This is the trade off. So you get this much money per hour, but I want this much uh, uh, items to be produced per hour, if that's what you want, right? So it's a trade off, right? But the end end of the whole thing is the product that's being produced, right? If that product is not a good product or not good quality product, guess what? That individual who fought for that $15 or $20 an hour is going to get fired anyways because they're not putting a good product.
I've never used that analogy, but I'm going to steal it from you because you're absolutely right. And the product here is
It's the kids,
education and educated kids, right?
right?
And so
The
if we're
kids are the
paying you,
product of the teacher.
yep, and if we're paying you, if the union is fighting to pay a teacher 25, 35, 45, however many dollars an hour, and the product, which is public education, is not satisfying the consumer, which is parents and the kids, then what ends up happening? People go to another product,
Well,
which is private school.
and here's another thing, Mike. Let me. So people are gonna get confused, like, oh, parents think that the teachers are the babysitters and whatnot. Let's change it around a little bit, right? Let's say kids were all taken out of school and they were all brought in under homeschooling, and a parent will hire a teacher at the rate that a child is being taxed on, right? So right now in Loudoun County, $16,000 a year per child, right?
Hmm.
$16,000 a year. A teacher can teach two or three kids for 8 hours, right? And that's what, $50,000 a year,
Yeah.
okay? Just for three kids. They could make 50 grand a year just teaching three kids for 6 hours or 7 hours, right? That's a good salary, I think, for that
Hmm.
amount of, right? And you're only dealing with three. Now, I, as a parent, don't like that teacher anymore because the end product or the way she teaches is not good. So I go look for another teacher.
Hmm.
That teacher's fired, right? That teacher is not babysitting. That teacher is there to teach, right? And you get the same schedule. You come in, you do your teaching, you recess, you do this, you do this, you do this, and at the end of the 6th hour or the 7th hour, you go home and you follow a curriculum. But again, it's been so politicized that they say teachers are underpaid. Yes, I absolutely agree. For the amount of money being spent per child, teachers are underpaid. But the teachers also need to put out a product, right? So you don't want illiterate children coming out of the school. If you have illiteracy coming out of school, that school should not be getting more funding.
I,
They
I
need to they need to readjust the teaching style. They need to readjust the teachers. They need to readjust how curriculum is being taught
I
because
agree. And so, real world example, right? Real world example here in Loudoun County. The budget was increased this past year, and we're at approximately $1.6 billion. When the school board and the superintendent went to the board of supervisors and presented the budget, even Phyllis Randall questioned what was going on, right? She's aware of all of the news stories and the deception and the drop in enrollment and the disenfranchised and unhappy parents, right? So she questioned the superintendent and he said, "No, there hasn't been a drop in enrollment." Well, that was a flat out lie. She called him on it
of
and said,
course,
that's not necessarily true. Finally, he came around and said, "Oh yeah, you're right. In actual numbers, there has been a drop, right? But what happened? The budget got approved, so they got an increase in the budget. Teachers are leaving, parents are unhappy, students are not being taught, and the curriculum is corrupted with social justice and equity and all these other things. But they got the money, right?
right?
And and they're not putting out the product. So parents are leaving the school system to go elsewhere. And then they say, well, you want to defund public education, you want to ruin it. No, I want I want the product that my tax dollars are supposed to be paying for, and
Hmm.
I'm not getting it. Right. And so
Yeah.
we've got and then to add insult to injury, after the budget was increased, they had a budget meeting, the Loudoun County School Board, and they found a $42 million surplus. So that's like me coming up to you and saying, "Hey, Dimas, I'm down on my rent. I need some money.
Hmm.
My mortgage went up. Could you lend me a couple $1,000s?" Right? You
Hmm.
lend me the couple $1,000s. I go home, and then the next time you see me, I'm wearing a Rolex watch, and you say, "Hey, Michael, what happened? I thought you guys were having some trouble paying your rent." Yeah, I looked at my budget and I found some extra money. So check out this watch I just bought, right? And what are you thinking? Holy crap. You just took me for my money.
Yeah.
So that's
That's
what we're doing. We're paying for a failing school system, and on top of that, the administration is growing exponentially while the teachers are not growing as much, but we keep getting staff and more admin and admin to the admin and equity positions and a social justice position and
sure.
social emotional learning coaches and all this other stuff. So they're running out of space in the administration building over there on Education Court. And meanwhile, the teachers that teach your child and my child have to beg for money for crayons and
Hmm.
paper and glue for their classrooms.
Well, Michael, you know what, man? I'm rooting for you, brother. I absolutely am rooting for you. I hope you go in there and I hope you raise all these issues, because now you're one step closer to the corruption that's going on with with all these stupid SJWs, the social justice warriors, and they're trying to turn the kids into social justice warriors, and that needs to stop. Okay, social justice warrior doesn't make you uh, uh, a product of the future. It makes you the independent of the future. Sorry, the dependent of the future, because then you're going to be dependent on a bunch of other crap, because you won't be able to get ahead on yourself by yourself on your own.
Mhm.
You're going to be dependent your entire life, and uh and you actually have stake in the game because your kids are in school at the same time. So you're not going in because you have nothing to lose. You have a lot to lose. You have your own kids in the same school system, which I was saying the same thing when I said the next person who's going to be running for the school board, they need to have a stake in the game, either kids or grandkids. They're going to be affected 100% by the policies they are going to
Mhm.
be putting forward themselves, or they're going to be fighting for, or they're going to be attesting to. You know what I mean? So uh, I speak for myself. I can't speak for anybody else. I I would love more transparency. I would love for you to speak out as a school board member to the people who are trying to corrupt the system further, and we wanted to bring it back to normalcy. We need to bring it back to school is school, where you need to learn curriculums, not being a social justice warrior, not a revolutionary, right? School system is not for revolutionary. You want to become a revolutionary? Go to church, go to mosque, go to a temple, whatever the hell you want to go. I don't care, but not in the school. The school system is not set up for a revolutionary system.
Mhm.
School system is set up to be taught, the curriculum, math, history, science, arithmetics, whatever you want, whatever the topics are, not revolutionary stuff, not social justice stuff. That has no place in school. You know, that's why parents are out there. They'll try to teach their kids as much as they can, and that's why we have. If parents are not taking care of their kids, we have a system in place for that. So there's a lot of system in place, but I do not want to support. I will not support a system that creates revolutionary kids, that creates a environment for these kids to be more confused coming out of the school than going in.
Yeah, and we talked about something just a few minutes ago with regards to teachers are not babysitters. I just wanted to address that. I
Sure,
agree, right? Parents also need to take responsibility for their children, right?
absolutely.
So you should not expect the school to discipline your child and teach them all the things that you as a parent are responsible for. But you're absolutely right that there are systems in place to protect kids, child protective services. There
Sure,
are laws on the books to protect people from bullying, discrimination, and there are laws on the books that protect bullying and discrimination based on gender. So
absolutely.
there are things already in place that are protecting different types of people, except that we've created this protected class that now their rights matter more than everybody else's rights. And that's where everybody has the rub, and that's where everybody's having a problem. So I just wanted to touch on that because
Yeah,
at no point am I saying that you and I as a parent absolve our responsibility and just send our kids to school and say, here, fix them. Because
I agree.
if you're not functioning as a parent, then you're letting down your child, and that's not what the school system is for. They're not raising your kid, they're just educating your kid.
No, I agree. I mean, if these people want certain things a certain way, and they want everybody to oblige to what the way they live behind closed doors to be done the same way in school, well, I want the Bible back in school then. I want prayers back. I want a lot of things back in school, because I want things that will prepare children for the future. I want them, that teaches them discipline. I want them to
Well,
think,
that's an interesting point. Let's
right?
just let's flip the tables here. What if a teacher, a very Christian teacher, decided to hang a crucifix on the wall and have a Bible and maybe have a candle, and have photographs, depictions of Jesus, and during Christmas time, photos of the manger and all sorts of things related to Christianity. I
Sure.
bet if you tried that in school today, they would fire you. Right?
Absolutely. But
But
you can
but
have the pride flag all over the
you could
place.
have the pride flag, you could have the transgender flag, you can have a BLM flag.
You can even have
You,
a satanist flag. Did you know that?
you no, I didn't.
Yeah.
So you can have all this stuff now in your classroom, but the moment you show up at school with a Bible and a crucifix, you there's grounds to fire you. And
For
to
termination.
me, they're no different because you are imposing your own personal views on children and you don't have a right to do that.
Correct. And they're making the classroom into billboards.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's exactly what they're doing,
Yeah, yeah.
right?
And
Either nothing or everything.
in my
That
opinion, I would advocate to remove all of these flags with exception of the American flag.
American
And
flag has to be anywhere and everywhere.
and
I
so
don't
if you have a science class and you want to put a picture of Albert Einstein, that's great. If you have a
sure.
history class and you want to hang a picture of Malcolm X, Martin Luther King, Abraham Lincoln, George Washington, that's
I
great.
agree.
I think that the things in your classroom should be relevant to the topics you are teaching.
I
At
100%
no
agree.
point in time should you be putting up your political signs and symbols in the class so that you can subliminally teach kids these things. And to me, that goes across the board. If we cannot have Christian symbols or Muslim symbols or atheist symbols in the classroom, then we should not have pride and BLM and transgender symbols either, because they all fall in the same category in that
Of
they're
course.
political, they're ideological, and they're non-academic.
I totally agree.
Yeah.
Well, Michael, thank you for coming on the show. Do you have any final thoughts for the audience?
So the thing that I want to say is, if I am elected, I will be humbled to have the honor to represent the people of Leesburg. And I encourage people to talk to me one on one rather than just look at social media and what other people say. Uh, and one of the first things that I want to do in office is reach out to my greatest critics. Figure out why they don't like me, why they didn't like my platform, why they disagree with me. Because if as an elected official I cannot communicate with the people that don't agree with me, I can't do my job. And so my website is riveraforschools.com, Rivera, FOR schools.com. My name is Michael Rivera, and I'm running for the Leesburg District seat on the Loudoun County School Board. So November 8th, I'd love to have your vote in Dimas. As always, it's a pleasure talking to you, and let's keep in touch.
Yes, absolutely. Mike, thank you so much for coming on the show. Folks, please leave your comments down below and hit the like button. This is the only way that we can find the algorithm on YouTube, so we could get get the video out there. And if you like the video, please share it with your friends and family. You know, uh, Again, I'm rooting for Mike because I've known Mike. His stance is exactly as my stance. Like, this is why we have the discussion. I did reach out to his two opponents. None of them reached back. I invited them onto the show, never, just heard cricket. So, if you want to keep a dialogue, Mike's been going on many different shows. He's putting himself out there and challenging these people to come and speak to him. And I think that's a great, great way of opening up the dialogue. And Mike just said it himself. He want to speak to those who think he's not a good fit. But once he's in the seat, he welcomes them to come in and talk to him openly, respectfully, and figure out why they think the way they think. So maybe they could come to a common ground. So with that, guys, thank you for tuning in. Until the next time, peace out.
Take care, my brother.